Hello, everybody. How are you? How are you? It's so good to see you. Let me put my glasses on here. In my hurry, I knocked them off. So I've got some fun stuff. I am loving this space quilt. It's going to be really cool. And I have been telling myself to get these space quilts done because I want to have a group of them so that, I'm trying to think of the right word, but it's what happens when you do. It's like our Jody, and she does her Grand is here. And Jody does her, it's things you do that belong together. So let me try to get my brain slowed down. It has been a busy day, and I'm so glad to see all of you. So let me put my glasses on and see who's here today. Hello, everybody. Wow, Cheryl was in here nice and early. And then, she's saying, welcome to Maryland. Oh, I hope Marilyn's here. And so Cheryl and Marcia and Charlene Piper, Debbie, hi, sweetie. Polly's here. Oh, it's so good to see Alexis. Welcome, sweetie. And, Teresa Jukovic, yay, hon. It is great to see you. So today we're doing a Curvy, I'm calling mine Curvy Spaces, and for a reason. And let me show you some of the things I have. All right. If you have tuned in for the first time for this project this time, I want to tell you that I wrote up a little tutorial on sewing curves. Okay. So if you want this, it's on our Groups.io site. But if you're not a member of Groups.io, please just send me a letter, an email to ourtimetoquilt@twc.com and tell me you'd like the information for Curvy Spaces. Whoops, I think I left a space. All right. Okay. Oh, there's Kaz. Hi, sweetie. Annette Parsons. This is great. I love seeing all of you. So just shoot me an email, and I will be glad to send you any of this information. All right. My Easter egg that I did this pattern for, the crazy Easter egg, it's upstairs being quilted. So Sunday, I will show you that. Sunday, I will also show you some fabric. You know how I judge a quilt contest up in Virginia and an outdoor one every September? Well, I finally took the gift certificates to get some fabric. And so I'll show you what fabric I got on Sunday, too. And then I'll tell you, too, why it's good when you get a gift card to go right away and spend it. I'll tell you that too. So there's Mitty. Hi, sweetheart. And Mary's here. Okay, just see this? This block is about curves every which way. Upside, downside, every which way. You lost me already? Oh, no. Okay. You tell me what I lost you on, and I will repeat it. So, maybe you were confused about the Easter egg. That's for our Sunday project. At Judy Smith, hi, sweetie. In fact, Judy, didn't you? You joined our group. So that's exciting because you can get all of the information. You can get the Curvy Spaces tutorial. And you can get the pattern that I drew up. For me, and you don't have to do these, you can make the curvy strips and just cut them into blocks and put them different directions. So this is one where I'm teaching you some skills, but you are the driver of that boat. So boat, car, bus. I think I meant bus. So here is the pattern. Then if you aren't on our groups IO, I will send you in the email the 2 template papers. Okay? And this is if you want to make a curvy block. And it is so easy. I'm going to show you that tonight. All right, so I got those papers. Now I have some interesting things to show you. Let me find... it's back here. Okay, I have a tray table with my cutting board. My cutting board is over here, but it's off camera, so pardon me for that. But I took some template plastic, and I made the templates from, hold on, I took the templates, and I turned them into clear templates. See them both? And I put on there the little dotted line is the finished sewing line starts. That's where the seam allowance begins. I wrote the name on them, the date, so I would remember. And this is piece A, and this is piece B. Easy peasy, okay? If you don't have template plastic, you can use plastic from packaging. Plastic from the bacon insert. Have you ever had bacon where they have a little piece of plastic behind it? For years, I saved all my bacon plastic. So, all right. Whoops. Not all of my shirt buttons got closed tonight. So, hello. Uh-oh, what's with Gran? Let's see. They're doing a boycott on April 11th. Oh, good point. I guess maybe Etsy's increasing the fees. You know, it's got to be tough if you're a maker because everything's gone up. Fabric's going up. Threads are going up. Oh, my goodness. Well, I'm so sorry about that. Okay. So I made, you ready? The first thing I made, this is just a little piece of it, but I made strip sets, and I showed you in last week's, and on Sunday, I did a little bit of this. So from the strip sets, I cut the pattern B. Then I sewed them to a pattern A. Is that the coolest? Is that the coolest? So I made 2 of these. But in making 2 of these, I realized I have to figure out how to cut them because, look, I have 2 of the same pieces. Now, if I want to sew 4 together, then the only other place I could use this would be down here because I'm thinking of making planets, okay? So what I did is I went on my computer, I went to EQ8, Electric Quilt version 8, and I took a photo of those blocks, I imported them, and then I couldn't figure out how to turn them. And it was getting late. So what I did is I just put them in this order of the spaces. Your rent has gone up 4 times. Oh, Miss Marcia. Honey, I'm sorry. So isn't this kind of cool? And I was looking at this thinking, I like it like it is. Even though I'm meant to turn things around, it still gives the impression of a planet. But isn't that cool? So I like that. So then I wanted to actually be able to turn and play with them a little more. Can you see that? Yeah. And so here, then I couldn't figure out how to do it on EQ8. So I used my Word program. And so here is where I got them as close as I could to see what they would look like as a planet. Then I just played with them and went every different direction. And then I said, oh my goodness, look at this. You can make them do all kinds of different shapes. So what I'm going to challenge you to do is figure out, if you were to make these, what would you do with them? And they don't have to be space fabric. That's something I just did. But let me show you. Yeah, see, I'm the same way, Mitzi. I keep saying, Mitty. I keep saying, I'm going to go on Etsy and sell stuff. But it's like, whoa. But I have a feeling this is just like, it's like a protest and they'll work out something. And unfortunately, everything's, expensive right now. But, okay, so let me go find the project. And hold on one second. And let me find some photos to show you. Because there are different things that you can do with your curved piecing. So let me go ahead and show you this. All right, let me turn this around. Let me turn off the lights so that you can see the pictures more clearly. One of these days, I'm going to try to learn the OBS system that my son took time and made a video for me to learn, and I haven't yet done it. But there's all different ways to use your stripes, okay? So here is a way to use curved piecing to make a quick and easy landscape. And I think that's very effective. Very, very effective. Okay. Now, don't like it that Norton keeps popping up. I pay for that. Oh, another thing too. This I saw. Now, if I think that this would be awesome with curvy strip sets. So the curves kind of went out, but I really loved that. Then now, look at this one. This is really awesome. And so, once you master sewing curves, boy, you could just do just about everything or anything. Now let me come down here. Curve piecing or curve stripping is a wonderful way to do ocean. I don't know why it's not letting me make this bigger. Hold on. Okay, it's acting weird today. But look at how you can use the curved piecing to do an ocean scene. That's fabulous. All right, here is another one of those sunset looks. Let me see if I can tilt this better. And that is beautiful. And just think, if you had your strip sets, you could do them curvy and you could make them smaller and then narrower at the base of the sun and have them widen out as you go up. So there's these are just to show you all the different things you could do. Here's another landscape. Isn't that gorgeous? And that's just with strips, with curvy strips. Then, let's see. Oops, hold on. Okay, come on. All right, then look at this. This is what I was saying. If you wanted to make curvy strip sets, now these are finally allowing me to enlarge. If you wanted to make just the curvy strip sets, you could cut them into different sizes and shapes and just put them together in a quilt. And then she saved the little bits right there to make that interesting stripe. So that's cool. Here is a pillow cover. Look at that. Isn't that awesome? So there's lots of things you can do with the curves, and you could even put them in blocks. Now, This is curvy piecing because of this seam right here. What if you took and made these strip sets curvy? Look at this. This is the one that got me thinking about outer space. And is there a way I could do curvy strips that looked like planets? And what is kind of interesting about this is because sometimes they use the curvy strip in the block and then applique or set in the planet right on top. In this one, it's one of the blocks. These blocks are the ones that I cut out, I made for you. And this would be section A, section B, or opposite. But these are all the two-piece. What they did is they made the strip sets first, used it as a single piece of fabric, and sewed it in to the other curved piece. And look how effective that is. And, you know, I like this because, like, look at this. It's just really playing with your eye. And having this 3/4 of what looks like a planet, but not here, you still get the effect. So this, I find, is a very well done quilt. I don't know if I'm going to do any curvy piecing on the edge or just do them all in my space fabric, but this is fascinating. And I love too the direction that they put the sections. Very neat. These are going up like this. These, it's coming together to form a design. So there's just so many, and I think that is my final picture, but it shows there are so many ways. Once you get used to doing curved piecing, there's so much you can do with it. I choked a little bit. So anyway, I'm hoping that that kind of helps spur your imagination a little. And that, whoops, let me close all of these. Because right now I can't see you at all. I'm trying to close these out. There you are. You're back. So then when I sat down for a few minutes and played with this, I mean, how cool is that? So it's really got me thinking. And it is super, super, super easy. I have been very, very pleased. And I finally figured out a way that I can cut the both fabrics at once. It works for me. That's all I'm going to say. But keep looking, keep figuring it out. So the curvy strip. And you know what? It's scrap friendly. That's what I love. All right. So now let me show you what I've got sitting right over here. Let me turn this light back on. Oops, here are my templates that I cut. Today, besides these two that I had that I used for the photos to make the quilt, on paper, today I made these blocks. Okay? Now I'm finding to use this size template, you probably should make your strip length about 28 to 30 inches, okay? I've been cutting 20 first and then 24, and unfortunately, it leaves me with not enough to cut one more. It just leaves me with this waist, okay? So let me see. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you again from start to finish. So let me move these a little out of the way. And all right. Now what I did today, let me get this ruler out of the way. What I did today is I went and pulled more fabric because I am loving this. So here's some Jenny Beyer. Because anything that looks, since I'm doing a space theme, anything that looks like space, even this, yes, it's leaves, but if you see it in small bits, oh, hi, Miss Kim Hicks. So good to see you. Oh, this is wonderful. So even this in small bits will look like gases from planets. So I've got so many fabrics. I went ahead and cut them into, now some of them I had to sew together because they were scraps and they weren't long enough, but I cut them into about 30-inch lengths, about this wide, because it's easier to handle. So I'm going to start with this one first, and I'm going to put something pretty dramatic. Boy, I've got a mess of fabrics, but hopefully you see that I've got plenty to choose from. All right. I'm going to put this up next to this. Now let me grab. So after making the 2 lengths of strips, I've got this much left. That's what told me, make them longer, because let me see how long this is. I'll start it down here. So it's 12, 24. So let me see. This one's longer. I'll use this one. Okay, and you have to be careful. I've already used this once, so just be aware it's got a curvy edge on it. All right, now I need to bring this up here so I don't cut. Oh, I'm so excited. I got my new ironing board cover. So the person that's been waiting for me to do a tutorial on making your own giant quilting ironing board, I hope to be doing it within about a week. So, all right. So this is going to be my first strip, this one. And I think this is kind of cool. Oh, y'all are so sweet. Thank you. All right, so here we go. We got this sitting. Now, it's going to meet up with this black on this side. Okay. So this is how I figured I wanted to cut both at one time, because I'm going to do so many blocks. I really want to, okay, I really want to be able to speed up the process. So now I've made sure that I've got the black fabric underneath to be able to have some width here. So I've got more width at the top than the bottom. Line them up. And I'm going to come in here and carefully always do a straight cut for the first inch or so. Let me bring the camera down so you can see. So let me get this. I want to be able to cut safely. And in fact, I will use my safety glove. I know y'all worry about me because I have been known to hurt myself. So, okay. All right, got my safety glove on. Now, oh, thank you. And thank you to Marsha for being our, thank you so much to Marsha for being our moderator tonight. Okay, here we go. So we come in straight and we just, for 1 inch. Then I'm going to hold this finger back. Now, if I could turn this the way I need to, I would be cutting with 2 fingers back here and cutting. But to get this on the camera, I can't do it. So I've got my safety gloves on. And now I'm just going to do a natural curve. Dogs, hush. Okay. All right. So I'm just going to kind of come in here, make sure to keep it straight. And you want to have something back here to kind of give the fabric some tension so it cuts better. All right, so this is not the prettiest curve, but it'll work. This is the only way I found to do the 2 cuts at once. And so then, see when I put them back together? See? So this one, right side up, bumps in. This one, right side up, overlaps. You cut the curved line. So now we've got this. I'm going to take and put these together, and then I'm going to come show you how to stitch it. Okay, let me try to turn the camera. All right. Let's see. All right, so I have to line these up where I started the cutting. I can take my safety glove off, but there, okay. It is so, so good to see all of you. All right, whoop, gotta turn on the machine. All right, so I'm gonna put it up here and just start it straight for about 5 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. And the reason I'm doing this is it lets the edges meet perfectly, and it gets me started on a good basis, where if I tried right away to do the curved piecing, it would not. It would make the beginnings just a little too crazy. All right, let's see. Here we go. Well, let me bring this up a little bit. Let me turn this down a little bit. Okay. Trying to get a good enough view so that you can see what I'm doing with my hands. Okay, here we go. So now remember, let me turn my fan on too. All of a sudden, I just got warm. And if I start getting warm, watch out. It won't quit. So I try to catch it. And I learned when I used to have terrible hot flashes, catch it as soon as you feel it. All right. So see, I've got my 2 fabrics. This one just guides this back and forth. Whoops, let me get the black out of the way. This hand guides it back and forth. This one takes and holds it very gently and guides it back and forth. Okay? There's no pulling. There's no holding on. Nothing. All right. So now let's let you get in here. Whoops. Whoops. Wait a minute. Hold on. I shouldn't have messed with it. I think just about had it just right. And I thought, oh, I could make it just a touch better. Let me see. I'll try this again. Okay, here we go. All right. So, yeah, this will let you see my hands. All right. So and here, right there is my 1/4 of an inch. So I've kind of got to hover near that 1/4 of an inch. So this one tries to remember to stay at the 1/4 of an inch seam line. The top one makes sure to meet this one. Okay. So I'm just going to slowly sew. Oh, and also I dropped my stitch length down to about 2.0 because I feel like I get a little more accuracy that way. With the stitches being smaller, I can kind of move it and get it to hold. All right, this is the tricky part. See how this curves out? This one curves in, which makes sense. The thing you have to do, I do need a GoPro. The thing that you have to do is hold this one further over this way until you get right far enough past that one curve that then you can pull it back and still be even. That is something you're just going to have to try for yourself. And I wish you good luck. Just practice, practice, practice. But this is so easy. I've been so pleased. So just moving them. I'm going slow enough and moving them back and forth, keeping this one to a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance and moving the top one to match. And it gets tricky sometimes when you have one of them's curving in and the other's curving out. You have to, like this looks like I'm bringing it way over, but it's just necessary so that right here where I'm sewing, they'll meet up. If I try to move this back, do you see what happens? You see this fabric underneath. So then it won't meet it good. So you have to kind of hold it further until you get right to the furthest out point under the needle, then pull it back. Now it's perfect. So it's just a matter of comfortably moving. Okay. Keep this one on the 1/4 of an inch seam allowance line. And every once in a while, it wants to get a little puckered. Just try to smooth a little bit. But don't worry. I have a couple little puckers, but when you press them good, you'll hardly even notice it. But remember, this is fun, so we're not going to get too... Now I'm having to go over again because this is starting to go in, and that was pretty far out. So. Okay. So just kind of work with them slowly, ease it in. Remember, the fabric works with you because it's got bias and give. So thank goodness. If you were trying to do this to paper, it would rip. Okay, so now I've got it coming in, and the bottom one going out, and this one coming in. So that's when I'll have to go a little farther over this way until that one part is under the needle. Now I can start pulling it back. There we go. And don't do more than a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance because you'll get more puckers. Now here, this one is out and that one's curved in. So that one you can kind of keep it as you see and just start moving it over as it gets ready to go under the needle. And don't tug them, okay? If you can see what would happen, then you'll get it all puckery. All right, so now we just keep going. And for me, going slow like this is not fun. There's Jody. Hi, sweetheart. And it's not fun to keep them, for me to go slow. But if I don't go slow, then I'll probably have to take stitches out and do it again. And I was watching, evidently, Ricky Timms is teaching Hugo how to quilt, and he said, no matter what, sewing slowly is faster than tearing the stitches out and doing it again. And boy, is that the truth. I can attest to that. All right, so I'm bringing them back close together. And you might notice I'm sewing with gray thread on black fabric, but the majority of the fabric is medium, and so I use the gray won't be a problem at all. All right, now I'm coming on down and pulling there. Okay, and don't worry, these didn't match. The very end didn't match to begin with. So, because I'm using used fabrics. Okay, let me put this up a little or else you won't be able to see it. Now, what I'm going to do, because I can't iron on this, but what I like to do is take my fingers and kind of gently coax the fabric into wanting to move with the curves before I put the iron to it. And you can always get your wooden iron and run right along, or your fingers, or a bone turner like this. Whoops. You don't need a fingernail file, but the bone turner, you can come along like this. Okay? So I like doing this before I put the iron on it because it just makes it easier. You're less likely to iron a pleat, a little pucker in it too. Now, let's say you don't have a wooden iron and you don't have a bone folder. Well, you can use your fingernail. You could use the edge of this scissor handle. You don't have to go out and buy things. You could even use the opposite end of your seam ripper. Okay? So now what I have to do is I'm going to have to just move this because I don't see any way to keep from melting it. As I told y'all last week, if you are unfortunate enough to iron on your cutting board, what I would do is I would take a damp towel, very damp towel, lay on the cutting board, the cutting mat on your ironing surface, and where it is, oops, I'm gonna have to wait for this, and where it is the most warped, lay that wet towel on top of it. Now this is, understand, I'm not guaranteeing this, but if you warped it, it's a mess anyway. Never leave them in a hot car, please. But what I would do is get a big stack of heavy books or bricks or cement blocks or whatever. Have those ready. Then I would take the warped cutting board, put the damp, very damp towel on it, iron over the damp towel until it warms up enough that you think it's going to be malleable. Then quickly move it to a hard surface, hard, smooth surface, stack all the books on it, and don't touch it for a day or two. And hopefully then you'll kind of, it's not going to make it perfect, but it might save it enough for you to be able to use it. But there's no guarantees. That's just something that I read and tried, and it worked for me. Okay, so look at this. Isn't that great? And nice and smooth, nice and flat. So now I'll bring my cutting board back over here. I'll do one more just to show you how we doing for time. We're doing good for time. So I'm going to lay this here. And what color do I want to use next? Let's go nice and wild and use, well, that's too dark. I am liking high contrast on these strips. I'm really liking high contrast. So let's see. I don't know. Ooh, this would be really pretty. Now this piece is not quite long enough. Let me see. I could use this, but I'm going to have to add a little to it. Let me see. I'm just going to, let me stitch these together real quickly so I can have a long enough piece. And don't worry, when you piece together fabric, you won't even notice it. You've got the curving going on. You will not notice it. All right. So now I stitch this together. Let me come away from my cutting mat. All right. Let me press this seam open because I want it to be as unnoticeable as possible. So I'm going to come in here. Whoops, you can't see me. I'm sorry. There it is, way over there. Let me make sure that this is not on a close-up. Whoops, no, it wasn't on close-up. Okay, so now I have done a nice flat seam for here. and I'm going to turn this way. I'm going to lay this right side up, right side up. Lay it over so that you've got not too much fabric, but right here, enough fabric that the deepest indent is still on your fabric. Okay, I can bring this end out a little touch. All right, so now this is the cut that was already there. I'm going to make a new one. I'm going to do it my own way. This is where I had used it before and cut down this side. So I'm going to come in here and get it going. Oops, let me get my glove on. If I cut myself, I know y'all would give me a fit. So I'm going to be real good. So I'm going to come in like this. Now let me, okay, come in and come back this way because I've got to stay where there's 2 layers of fabric. Let me peek under here again. Okay, got plenty. Doing good. Got to peek under here. Whoops. Let me get them lined up again. This earlier today, I pinned them, but I don't think I need to as long as I'm very careful. All right, just checking where this is so I have some room. I have to, if I didn't have the glove on it, I try using my finger. I feel where the edge of the bottom fabric is. Okay, let me move this. You know what? It's better to waste a little more fabric than to mess up a cut. We found that out the other day. Okay. All right. Let me slide this down, line it all back up. Whoops. Okay. Let me line it back up. Make sure I've got enough. All right. This is not lined up, but the top part is. Okay. There. But this is well lined up. Okay. So now and I'm getting so much more comfortable with the cutting the curves that now I'm actually doing, they're a little deeper. I was very shallow before. And now let me show you, okay? So I make one cut, I don't even mark it, I make one cut and I go for it. And there it is, there it fits. So here, I'm gonna flip it over and start sewing from the other end. Now, you might have been told at some point to, when you're doing strip sets, don't sew them the same direction. Don't start at the same top and sew down. That if you start at one end of the strip sets, then the next time, start them from the other end to keep them from waving and curling, okay? So I'm doing the same thing with this. Let me take off this glove and let me bring the camera down to show you. Okay, so here I've got the fabrics together. I'm going to cut. So this is the last cutting and sewing that I'm going to show you this week, because then I want to show you what the next steps. Okay. I'm hoping, I wish you could see it even better, but the camera won't reach but so far. Okay. Keeping the bottom fabric lined up with the 1/4 of an inch and bringing the top edge to meet it. But I haven't used any pens. I haven't used marking utensils. I'm just doing freehand. And it is fun. Honestly, I'm enjoying this. And I've got to be honest, I didn't think it would be this easy. You know, when I did the quilt at Myrtle Beach, Windswept, the quilt that I took the class in at Myrtle Beach, that really got me over my fear of curved piecing. And now this is just icing on the cake. And see, the other piece I first started to use, I had to stitch the extra on. It's a good thing because it wasn't coming out long enough. Okay, so now let me finish this. I've got about 12 inches or so left to sew. And you see how it's just a matter of matching the edges. Easy peasy. Almost done. Whoa, see? Always check your fabric. This had been kind of spun around. So when you're sewing, check and make sure it's going the right direction. Everything's nice and smooth. And make sure nothing gets hung up or twisted up under it. But I bet you if you just do your first one, once you've sewn your first one, you will have a pretty good feel. Now this, I don't think I'm going to go all the way to the end, but that's missing a little touch of fabric. But I don't even think I'll need quite that far down. All right, so that's the last piece that I'm going to show. But while we're here, whoops, I forgot I tightened it down. While we're here, let me show you one more time again. This seam is going that way. So this next seam goes the opposite. So let me turn it around because it's easier to use my wooden iron and push it that direction. And as you can see, that is a pretty deep seam allowance. Let me see if I can fix that really quickly. Because if you do bigger than 1/4 of an inch, you'll lose your curve. So let me get this. All right. Whoops, hold on just a second. Some of these curves, I kind of sewed them a little wide. And that's not good, because it will remove the curve. So let me show you. Here's one of the places. So I just need to come along here. Come along here, and every 4th or 5th stitch, if I can get the seam ripper under it. I think I need stronger glasses. Okay, come on. But just kind of come along and remove every 4th or 5th. Then that way it'll allow you to kind of pull the thread loose. But I'm hoping you'll give this a try. Even if you just grab your stash, your scrap bag, and see what you can do. But I recommend put your scraps together until you have about 30-inch long pieces. But I wouldn't do much over that because then it's just too hard to handle. Picking up threads. Okay, now let me see. Now just go back in and carefully cut loose the remaining threads. All right. Let's see. It's funny, you can see it on the dark side of the fabric. I couldn't see it before. Okay. Yes. So, I'll show you. What I've learned, let's say this is the piece that I'm going to have on top. Let me find another piece to go underneath of it. Okay, so this is how I have figured out how to cut two pieces at one time instead of cutting a curve, marking it, and then coming back and having to cut it again. All right, so both of these pieces, I did some tearing of the fabric, so the threads are bothering me. But both of these pieces are right side up. And there should be a way that I could do it differently, but this way I know I can do it this way. So you lay this with it overlapping the depth that you're going to cut. You know, so if you're going to give a real wide area, you would have to overlap it more wide. Whoops. You would have to overlap it more. If you're just going to do a narrow one, then you could pull this back a little. But you just overlap it right side, right side. So these sides you're going to sew together when you're done. And you just pretend that this is the rotary cutter, and you just come along like this and cut through both fabrics. And when you cut through both fabrics and you've cut it loose and you take your scraps away, then this will fit perfectly with that one. So right sides up, but the two sides to, overlap a little here. And then just cut. And you see, I have this much overlap, and I've kept the curves in that amount. If you want to do a wider curve, then just overlap it a little more. So, got it? So these, and when I finish cutting that and peel off the pieces, this edge and this edge, not the scraps, but these two edges will be a perfect match. So that's how I figured that out. All right. Good job for writing it in caps because I was able to see it. Thank you. Shadow cut them. Oh, listen to Miss Mary. What a great way to refer to that. So I thought last week I had it right, but I didn't. And so I'm not sure what I did wrong. And so today I just did it this way because I said, I feel like being productive, and I'll go do more research later. But, I have a hard time with spatial things, figuring out. I'll show you another way. Let me get this done. Oh, I'm running out of time, but anyway, see where I had it too wide, and I came back and made this narrow one. So I'm going to take this wide part out, take those stitches out, and that way I'll get my full curve. Then, like I said, I will use my fingers or a wooden iron or something like that to just give it, or just your fingers, something just to kind of coax it. Because what you're doing is you're allowing the fabric to relax and stretch on the bias. And then you've got that. Okay. So now that is done, and I'll show you what you do next. All right. I don't have a whole curve, but what I did, okay, here we go. I can show you this way. Pretend that this was your strip set, all cute, nice. Then I bring in this template. I laid it here, took my chalk, traced around it, cut it. There we go. Then I traced around the other template right here. So see how I made a copy of that. So here's one, and here is the other. Okay. Now, the one thing you have to be careful of, you will have a strip, but you've got to figure out, how you're going to cut it to get these to match, because last night I had a terrible time when I did my first ones. Here, I did these two and realized, uh-oh, they're the same direction. And I wanted them to have a planet configuration. So today, when I was cutting the strip set today, I was very careful to actually figure out, how am I supposed to cut these? So like this is going to be the bottom of the planet. They're not going to be the same. To make sure I didn't waste fabric, these two were cut one direction. The fabric, these two were cut from the template being spun the other direction. Okay? Yep, you flip your template over. Exactly. Now, you probably wonder, well, why didn't you just do a whole piece for the half circle? Because I really do want it put together. It'll give it a little wobble. It won't match perfectly, and I want that. So, here is a piece I cut from last night, from these. And I'm going to get ready and sew it and show you. But first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to line it up with the line on. I'm going to, whoops, I am off camera again. Let's try this again. I'm going to line it up right on this line across here. And then I need to neaten up this edge. That looks terrible. Let me see. Whoops. Okay. Aha, yes. So see, I left up to a 1/2 inch more. So what I'm going to do is come in here and neaten up this edge. All right. Now, double check, make sure I've got the right size. Yep, got the right size. Now, what I do is I fold this into half like this, and then get my iron. Whoops. And get my iron. And I'm going to press a crease for the middle. Okay? Now, I've pressed a crease here, and I've pressed a crease in the middle here. I fold it like this, press it. Now I've got my crease. So now I'm going to come over to the sewing machine. Yeah, I kind of did want it to have that outer space kind of, that planetary action going on. Okay, so now what I do is I lay it here. I'll bring it up a little. I lay it here as it's going to be pieced. I take this smaller piece, the smaller curve, and put it on top, okay? And so I bring it around here. Now this is where it really helps to put a spot of glue there, and then put it under my needle under the sewing machine needle, and I just sew it a few stitches to get it started before I start messing with. I sew it a few stitches to get it started before I start moving this to fit the curve. I do not pin. I find it's better if you don't pin. You can move it a lot smoother. So it's just the same as I was doing for the curved pieces. Just the same thing of kind of coming slowly around the curves, making sure you're on 1/4 inch seam allowance, and then taking this and making sure they match at the edge. And the reason you iron the crease at halfway is it gives you a chance to just double check and go, yep, there's a crease, I'm doing good. And if there was something wrong at that point, if they were too far off, then it gives you a chance to start again before you've done the whole seam all the way around. But I do not pin. I let the edges stay free. I'm going to probably go ahead. I normally don't glue this end because I hold it out to the very end. So I think what I'm going to do is just come on around at 1/4 inch. And when I'm really sure everything's going to work, then I'll stick it down and then finish sewing it out. Okay. All right. So now, here we go. And what I like to do is with my fingers, sometimes I try to push it this way, but I find it goes better towards the outside because you've got all these seam allowances that are going to give you a fit. So I just get my wooden iron and I give it, and you can see here, the crease line runs right across just perfectly. So there is the block. So now, let me pull these here. This is going to be the bottom of the planet. Now the good thing is, the only line you have to match up is this bottom, this blue or the outer space fabric. That's the only seam you have to match up. Everything else just floats, but that bottom line will show. So I make sure I get it right on, and then I put a needle on either side of that seam so it won't move. And then I'm going to start sewing down that end first because, you know, as you sew, sometimes the fabric will kind of push and shove ahead of you. So start that one seam that has to meet, start sewing close to that so you don't have any excess movement of the fabric along the way. Then these, just make sure that, you know, they're roughly lined up because it doesn't matter where the seams line up. And I sew them at 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay. Let me grab the other two while I'm right here. Make it easy on myself. All right. So right here is where it has to match. So I fold it right sides together. I see right where those, it's hard because this fabric's different, but you can tell where that seam allowance is, and you put 2 pins. You put 1 pin here, then you put 1 pin right below it, and then the rest, you just let it go. And I come under here, keep on sewing. Now my edges aren't perfectly lined up because I didn't square it first, but I kind of know where it needs to be, so I'm not going to worry too much. All right, but you may want to just square it when you're all done because, you know, anytime you sew curves, sometimes they, you know, they get a little wonky after you've sewn them. You've got to, you know, like I said before, where is your bias curve? So here are, whoops, here is 1/2 of the planet. And you're going to have this too, where be careful with your colors, but when they reach the other, they'll get a little mysterious. But don't worry about that. I'm going to like that because then it makes the plant the planet look a little mysterious. So here is the other one. And what I'm going to do is then just sew them together like that. So you've got the curves here, you've got the pieces all curved. And see where I tell you, it doesn't even matter to me that, you know, if you want these seam allowances to match up, then while you've got the strip set, what I would do, because you could do it this way, while you got, pretend this is the strip set, I would mark it this way, flip it over like this, and mark it the other way and have it as one piece. And then you could still sew these on. You could sew, in fact, you could take these two pieces, sew them together with a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and then put it on as one great big piece. But I still want mine to have a pieced planet look. And I think that's kind of cool. All right. So I think, have we covered everything? And to do this one, I just want the center seam to meet, and I want these two. So the only place I pin it is right here, and I pin it so that these pieces right out here meet, and the rest I ease it on in. Okay, so that's my first planet, and then I'm trying to decide when I make, let me put the camera so I can see. Oh no. Okay. Thank you so much. I did. I accidentally knocked the battery component. So let me see. Okay. So here is where I took the 4 pieces and put them together going horizontally. Okay. And what I think, did I tell you how, if you want these to be in one piece, you would just lay the template, trace it, flip it over, trace it, and then sew the two. Let me see this again. This is, take the 2 A pieces, stitch them together in the center, and then treat it as one big curve. All right. Then I took it and took the blocks and turned them all opposite ways. So this is vertical, horizontal, vertical, horizontal. And then here, I just kind of made a caterpillar out of them. So there's all different ways. Now, this last one is the one where I just had these 2 directions. And I was doing this in EQ8, Electric Quilt 8. Sounds good, it's working. And I like this too. It still has a sense of space, a planet in outer space, but it's like broken up. It's like if you took and put it under one of those kaleidoscope mirrored glasses. So there are so many different ways that you can do this. And like I said, you can take your strip sets and just cut squares and take that square and just put them different directions. Play around with having vertical square next to a horizontal one, etc., etc. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I found that I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes. It took me about 6 strips of fabric to get the dimension of the template. And I think I measured the dimension of the template at about 5 inches. So it's just about 5 inches. And so that when I did the 6 strips, not everything shows on every cut. Like here, there was a red strip that really didn't get to show much. But then on the ones that I cut upside down, it showed just fine. I kind of like that. All right, guys. I think I've shown you everything that I was going to show you tonight. And, I hope you're coming Sunday. On Sunday, if you have a grapevine wreath, whoops, I got so many things to show you. You have a grapevine wreath. You have a grapevine wreath. And then you want to have some ribbon, Easter ribbon, or bunny or flower ribbon. Then if you have some plastic eggs, we're going to do our final Easter decoration. Okay? So, and I'm going to show you ways. You're probably thinking, well, what can I do with a shiny, slippery plastic egg? I'm going to show you. So Sunday, we will work on that. And then I'll have the Crazy Patch Easter egg already quilted. It'll be down to show you that completed. I already stitched around the edge, turned it. I didn't turn it inside out until I took all the paper off. That was fun. I hadn't done that in a while, and it was fun. So, have you? Please, Kim, do show me your mystery delectable mountain quilt top. Mine has all of, it's behind the board. I'll show you Sunday because I finished doing all of the prairie points on the border. It just hasn't been quilted. So this block is like the drunkard's pattern. Yes, it is. And there's so many different ways depending on which way you turn a block. So if you're not into outer space like I am and Mark is, then pick out what colors that you want. And you could just have it be amazing. Do all kinds. It could be big flowers, anything. All right. It does, Mary. That's a good point. That is a very good point. All right, everybody. It was so much fun to see you again. And you're a Trekkie. So then you, of course, you like it. And I love how colorful they look. And, if you look at some of the planets like Jupiter or Saturn, they have a curvy ring look to them. So to me, it is all fun. All righty. Well, I'm going to get off of here and go heat up some dinner. And right this week, I pre-made my dinner. I'll tell you more about that Sunday. But, and tomorrow night, my granddaughter, Charlotte, is going to be in her first play. She's got her first role. And so I'll be going to see that. I'll take pictures to show you. And tonight, thank you, Miss Kim. Thank you, Miss Judy. Tonight's show Happy birthday to my Katie, 41 years old. Oh, I said it, Katie. And that's not my oldest child. And so it's Katie's birthday today. 9 pounds, 15 ounces. Oh my God, full head of hair. I mean, the pediatrician said I expected her to get up and walk out of delivery. So anyway, but happy birthday to Katie. And I just want to give a little shout out to a very dear actress who passed away this past weekend. And her name was June Brown. She played Dot Cotton on EastEnders for 30 years and smoked like a chimney, but lived until her 90s. So I just want to give a shout out to a great, great gal. All right, everybody, have a great rest of your evening, and I'll see you Sunday. I'll have my granddog here, too, so we'll get to see my Polly again. Take good care. Take good care of yourself. You can't take care of others unless you take care of yourself first. All right? Bye-bye, everyone. See you soon, and get curving. Bye-bye. Whoops. If I can get my mouse to work, I'll say goodbye. Okay. Bye-bye.